Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, and also good afternoon, especially to our beloved Tribuners and also to all of us. Well, it's such an honor that in this afternoon I can be present as the special Ukrainian edition at Ngobrol Virtual and discuss about how the development of Ukrainian Indonesian diplomacy before and also after the Russian invasion. So, Tribuners, if you have any question or comments, you can write them directly in the column below. And of course, we would like to present and welcoming the Honorable Mr. His Excellence Ukrainian Embassy for Indonesia, Mr. His Excellence Dr. Vasil Hamianin. And good afternoon, and how are you, Dr. Vasil?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi sekalian, saudara-saudariku yang saya hormati. I'm really glad to be in your program once again. Thank you for the invitation. And yes, selamat bertanya. Saya akan menjawab semua pertanyaan. I'll be honored to answer any of your questions. I'll try to be brief. I'll try to be very concrete.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Vasil. And also, as we know that Ukraine and Indonesia have a long diplomatic relation even since the 19th centuries and have gone through various diplomatic histories. Then, Dr. Vasil, how Ukraine diplomacy relation with non-alignment movement country before and also after Russia invasion, especially in Indonesia?
It's a very difficult question to answer within 5 minutes. It will take me like 1 hour maybe to describe all the situation. But hubungan bilateral di antara Indonesia dan Ukraina mulai di tahun 1946, back in 1946 in the United Nations, when led by Minister Manuilski, Ukrainian delegations raised the issue of Indonesia becoming the rightful member of the United Nations. And Ukrainian delegation fought for this during the next 3 or 4 years until Indonesia was accepted in the United Nations. So this was the really official start of our diplomatic relations. And after that, a lot of Ukrainian people actively participated in building up new Indonesian Republic, building the stadiums, building the iron and steel plants, roads, everything. So the relations has been for some time. That time we were a part of the Soviet Union, but never mind. A lot of Ukrainians knew and loved Indonesia. How about you asked me about the non-aligned movement. You know, it's very easy to check 2 sources. One is so-called Ramstein coalition or Ramstein meeting. Some people call it anti-Putin coalition, anti-fascist coalition of 21st century. And in this Ramstein coalition, who supports Ukraine, supports fight of Ukraine for its independence against the brutal aggression of Russian Federation. Among the 54 members of this coalition, there are many countries from Africa, Latin America, Europe, Asia, who are effectively the non-aligned movement members. It's like Sierra Leone, like Morocco, like Tunisia, like many other countries, like Ecuador, and etc. So a non-aligned movement means that countries do not join the military alliance. Yes. But it doesn't mean that these countries would not support democracy and would not protect humanity and justice in other regions whenever it's violated. So at present we face a really challenging period in our history, crucial for our independence and sovereignty. Actually we used to welcome, we welcome any members of non-aligned movement to join the coalition, because this fight of Ukraine for its independence, in fact, not just for our sovereignty, territorial integrity, it is the fight of colonialism, slavery, and dictatorship represented by Russian aggressors against the democracy, against humanity, against justice, against freedom. How precious is Merdeka towards every Indonesian? How precious this word is towards any member of the world community. Ask anyone on the streets of Jakarta or Makassar, anywhere. Ask anyone in any place globally, any African country. Independence and freedom, how important they are to them. They will say, yes, it's crucial for us. Now, what is going on now is the fight for our independence, for our freedom, for the right to be ourselves, which Russia is trying to destroy. So, well, we're building up the friendly and partnership relations with all the countries worldwide, whether they are the members of any alliance or they are non-aligned movement members or anyone else. Since the only one criteria is these countries are supporting democracy, freedom, independence, justice, rule of law and human rights. That's basically it. It's simple. It's challenging, but it's not the deadlock. It's not the dead end.
Okay. But as we all know that Indonesia recently contact with Ukraine military ministry that Reznikov about the plan to bring peace between two countries but rejected. Then what is the actual priority program Ukraine ambassador in Indonesia? Or maybe what is your main priority program in Indonesia in the time like this, Mr. Dr. Zeval?
Well, I think what you said is just precisely correct, because it was not that our Minister Reznikov was contacted, but there was the speech of Minister of Defense Pak Prabowo, yang saya hormati, very good friend of mine, I hope so, he thinks likewise. So that was the speech in Shangri-La in Singapore. But before that, I have to remind everybody that before that, last year, 29th of June, President Joko Widodo visited Ukraine and with the big delegation, heading a big delegation, ng Ibu Negara juga. And President Joko Widodo met with President Zelensky also in Tokyo quite recently. They had three phone calls. Plus ministers, Menteri Luar Negeri Menlu Ukraine dan Indonesia, they talked and met many times. So there are many contacts, and there were phone calls between Mr. Reznikov and Pak Prabowo. They were like personal contacts. It's many contacts that took place, and we did not reject the plan provided by Indonesia. We rejected the point that have contradictory meaning, could be interpreted as contradictory by the people who understand what's going on. So our vision is clear and it's universal, I would say, and it is the peace formula of President Zelensky, which was presented to the humankind during the Bali G20 forum, a summit. So it's a Bali summit in November last year. It was presented as 10 points, and this is clear path towards the ending of this brutal aggression of Russian Federation. And what's very important, it's universal. So it can be applied to any conflict, any war, any aggression, which are undergoing now, and it's efficient in preventing any of this conflict or aggression or invasion in future. So this universal formula has been presented, now has been developed, and we expect that this year, later on, maybe in summer, I don't know yet, it will be Peace Summit, Global Peace Summit, where the peace formula of President Zelensky will be discussed and hopefully will be supported by the whole community.
Okay, then you already in the recently answer talk about G20 in Bali. Then, Mr. Faisal, what do you think about how significant the impact of the latest G20 in Bali towards global peace agenda? And also, especially G20 already get many protests across Indonesia for how useless are those conferences and doesn't give a tangible impact for any problems.
I think this is the question which is very easy to answer. You just, our tribunals, our friends, saudara-saudari, can just check online what were the results of G20 summit, what were the decisions, especially the really strong wording in the final statement by the G20 states, the head of states. But after that, what is important? What happened after that? Was it a plan? Was it any action plan or any like step-by-step development in this direction? I didn't notice anything. So I would say that after G20 summit in Bali, we don't see any progress coming from the G20 as the community, or from many countries that are G20 members. So I would say that Indonesia played an outstanding role in passing this joint statement and persuading the countries to join it. Like finally, yeah, we have this final document. But final document and statement is one thing, it's a good beginning. But as I always say, what is the next step? What is the plan? Plan A, plan B. Now, I remind everybody, please remember this. Please recollect what happened during this summit in Bali. When, after the first day of the summit, and before the beginning of the second day of the summit, Russia attacked Ukraine with more than 100 missiles. And it was the attack on the civilian objects. As a result, many civilians, women and children were killed by Russian missiles. And it happened just between day 1 and day 2 of the summit. Now, explaining everything, I would say that, well, if we just say stop the war, obviously the war would not stop. A part of making declarations, a part of making statements, and a part of approving the resolutions, like it happens in the United Nations, we have to act. We have to act as leaders, we have to act as countries who love and support democracy and who are ready to fight for freedom, ready to fight for human rights, for humanity in the broader sense, worldwide, not only in your region and not only in your country. Because next under attack will be your country. Remember this, the world is small and any country in the world will be under attack at any time. And in this situation, anyone under attack would require the support of the world community. Not just declarations, not just statements, but physical support for independence, for freedom, and for the lives of the people. That's what I can say. You check the results, it's obvious. Russia never stopped the bombings and shellings of civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. Never stopped.
Okay. If we're talking about international participation and also about the support, then Southeast Asia community or ASEAN are one of the growing communities in the global power and have important role on global dominating countries agenda. Then what do you think about what kind of support that Southeast Asian community, or as we are called as ASEAN, does provide in terms of supporting Ukraine?
I think that, well, again, you just check upon the facts. I didn't see any tangible support provided by ASEAN as a community or ASEAN as member states. However, last year, ASEAN has approved accession of Ukraine into the TAC. The TAC, so-called TAC, the Agreement of Cooperation and Ability in the Southeast Asia. So we became the 50th state that joined this treaty, and now we started to work to strengthen and broaden our cooperation with ASEAN. It's good in practical terms that we are viewed as the partner. We're viewed as the partner that will be like will have an efficient cooperation with, yeah. But particularly in terms of war prevention and putting the end of Russian aggression in Ukraine, I don't think that ASEAN member states are ready to take any measures. Maybe some countries did something. Maybe some countries I would not mention, but some smaller countries provided some humanitarian aid to Ukraine, and but okay, all the countries of ASEAN actually supported Ukraine in the United Nations, passing the resolutions. But as we know, United Nations now is a paralyzed body, paralyzed by Russian Federation, sitting in the Security Council and blocking all the decisions by the Security Council. So again, I would go for this. If we talk about the serious, large-scale invasion, military aggression against the sovereign state, it's not enough, and it's not good time to talk and discuss. Because if we like go on discussing for 10 years, maybe there will be no country under attack. It will disappear. It will be destroyed, enslaved, or I don't know what. The range of genocide Russian Federation, Russian militaries are committing on the occupied Ukrainian territories is outrageous. So when we go on like this, in 10 years there will be a very different Ukraine. There will be different countries and different globe. Yeah, so we don't know what would happen. So instead of just talking and just expressing position, we need acting. Not we as Ukraine, but we as the humankind. We as the mankind, as people who live on this earth and people who want peace, stability, development and security.
Okay. And also, as we all know, that China are one of the biggest allies of Russia, and recently Taiwan is on the verge of invasion by China. And then we all know that USA has its warning placed their military bases in Japan, Philippines, and also Australia. Then what do you think, Dr. Vasil, about the rising tension of conflict between USA and China towards Taiwan?
Well, this for me as a diplomat, that sounds very provocative. Why? Because I'm ambassador in Indonesia, not in China and not in the United States. So it will not be very appropriate for me to make any statements regarding whatever Chinese foreign policy or United States foreign policy. What I would like to say that it's my personal view, it's my personal position is that both United States of America and People's Republic of China, I hope that both leaders of these states and the establishments of these states, the elites, are rational people. They understand what's going on. They understand the consequences of any military conflicts of the scale like we are talking about. So I don't think and I don't anticipate that any military conflict or war will happen between the United States and China. Regarding I don't think China will be offended, but Chinese weapons may be very massive, maybe in quantities very big, but compared to the to American, to European weapons, it's like 1 or 2 generations behind in productivity and efficiency. So I don't think that Taiwan now is well equipped and well prepared. Don't forget, Taiwan is a nation of 23 million people. It's a big nation, and it's very well prepared militarily. So I don't think that any of the countries just mentioned would go for bloodshed between China and Taiwan. This will be irrational, and this will be the global catastrophe. So no, my prediction is like in next 10 or 20 or 30 years, there will be no war around Taiwan. Thanks God. Let's pray that peace and rationalism will prevail, and any country of the world, whatever aggressive it is, will remain calm and will think about the consequences. Will think about the consequences for its people, for its economy, for its geopolitical value, and for the people of this country.
As an ambassador of Ukraine that running the national agenda of gaining international support, it is important to having clear hope and dreams of how this conflict escalates and finally gaining peace. Then, what do you think about, can you tell our tribuners of your hope and also dreams about welcoming, especially welcoming the Statehood Day of Ukraine at 28 July tomorrow, especially for Indonesia and international community, Dr. Basil?
Yeah, Ukrainian Day of Statehood is 28th, and the Ukrainian Hari Kemerdekaan Ukraina is a week after Hari Kemerdekaan Indonesia, 24th of August. So, but still, we have some important dates on this in this month. What's our hopes? I would answer this in a very specific manner. For all my Indonesian friends, for all tribuners, for all saudara-saudariku, I would call upon you. Please, if you want to find the answers about Ukraine, about Ukrainians, and about the position of Ukrainian people, like myself, like my mother, like my family, like my friends, like many other people in Ukraine, go to Pidato Surabaya Bung Tomo and listen to mendengarkan Pidato Surabaya Bung Tomo. What he said in his speech in 1945 exactly fits the feelings and the spirit of Ukraine against the aggressor. We are ready to die, but we are not ready to be slaves. We are ready to fight to the last drop of our blood against this brutal invader, Russian Federation, against this fascism. Because Russia is a last empire. It's the things that Indonesians do not accept, like slavery, colonialism, imperialism. These things are represented by Russian Federation in today's world. And Ukrainians are ready to fight. And our soldiers, our people, our volunteers, waking up in the morning and say, Merdeka atau mati. This is our slogan. This is how we feel every day. So we are ready to die. We're not ready to be slaves of any nation in the world. That's why a peace formula of President Zelensky, which I already introduced, and you can check it by G20 Bali Summit materials, it's inside there. So peace formula of President Zelensky is the clearest way to the peace, stability, and development. It's the clearest way. And trust me, if anyone doesn't believe that Ukrainians and Ukrainian state will fight for our independence, sovereignty, for our territory, then go back to Pidato Surabaya Bung Tomo. Check how Indonesian people fought for the independence, for the territorial integrity, for this sovereignty, and you will understand what we feel. We will be fighting till the last Russian aggressor standing on Ukrainian land will go away or die. So basically, it's no other option. Merdeka atau mati.
Okay, it's such a relevant with your hopes and dream. There are many support from our YouTube channel that give some support for Ukraine. From Akbar Indo Prasetyo, say no war in Ukraine. And also there are Valeria Kruzkova saying Ukraina Merdeka. Do you know Merdeka in English?
Sorry, Ukraina Merdeka. It's like freedom.
Yes, it's a freedom.
Ukraine is free. Like yeah, hiduplah Ukraina, hiduplah Indonesia. It's very clear messages. Clear. It's and I thank you for tribuners for support.
And then there are from Rainbow saying that God bless Ukrainians. And also I have one more question. If some media only report about the military activities, then I personally would like to ask about what is or how is the current condition in social life in Ukraine nowadays.
No, basically the social life is very difficult for many Ukrainians. Can you imagine? Just imagine 500 days of war. Every day there are missiles, there are artillery shells, mines, grenades, bombs that drop on civilians in Ukraine, drop on their heads from the skies, including the drones provided by Iran to Russian militaries, including Russian missiles from all. It's just every single day and every single night. How can people survive in this situation? How can they feel safe? No, they cannot. They don't feel safe. They survive. They feel strong. They die on this. So the situation is not very positive, not very optimistic in terms of, well, people are suffering. After the destruction of Kakhovka Dam in southern eastern part of Ukraine, up to 700,000 of Ukrainians were cut from fresh water, from drinking water, from food, from medical service, from anything, from electricity, from logistics. It's all committed by Russian Federation. So basically, you hear from Russian media that, oh, we don't fight against civilians. Russian military machine fights against civilian people in Ukraine. Russian military kill Ukrainian civilians, women and children, elders, and everyone, every day, every single day. So this is unfortunately the present situation in Ukraine. But we, again, I repeat this, people wake up, people count the losses, people count the casualties, people try to rebuild or repair their damaged houses. People feel strong and not ready to surrender.
And also on June 28th yesterday, we all know that it coinciding with National Constitution Day in Ukraine. Then what are the values of the Constitution of Ukraine that Ukraine has been fighting for nowadays?
I think I already repeated this. It's interesting that Ukraine was historically, it has one of the oldest constitutions in the world. It was back in 16th century, and it was created by the prominent Ukrainian leader. What is interesting thing about Ukrainian history? It's funny, but it makes us very different from Russians. Ukraine never had kingdoms. Ukraine never had emperors or kings or tsars. All leaders of Ukrainian statehood were elected democratically through centuries. To begin with the 5th century, 1,500 years ago, till now it's like that. If Ukrainians are not satisfied with the kings or presidents, we protest and we ask him to go, and we elect another one. So these principles are reflected in our constitution. And this is about our statehood, that people of Ukraine are the real rulers of this country. People of Ukraine, citizens of Ukraine, are the real owners of this country. And they rule the way. Maybe it's sometimes we make mistakes. People make mistakes. We elect people who do not fit our requirements, and after that we ask them to go. Well, everybody makes mistakes. But what is important thing? Ukraine never attacked any neighboring country. On the contrary, we always help the people in need. During this war, recently, you know what happened in Turkey? Great Gympabumi, very big Gympabumi earthquake in Turkey. So Ukraine, having the bad situation in our country, sent 80 rescuers, a huge team of rescuers sent to Turkey to help our neighbors, to help our friends. This is how we live. We live peacefully, we live like friends. We don't fight, we don't even have enough weapons to protect ourselves when under attack, unfortunately. So peace, democracy, and humanity, and of course justice. That's what we demand from the world. That's what we demand from our neighbors. Yeah, that's what about our constitution.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Vasil. And is there any most important things or maybe message that you want to say to Indonesian people, or especially for the Tribuners?
Dear Tribuners, saudara-saudariku, with great respect to Tribun Timur and to Tribun Network, which I really sincerely respect, I ask you something. Don't believe Russian propaganda. Don't believe the people who try to tell you lies, because what Russians do recently, not only killing Ukrainians, not only killing your Muslim brothers in Chechnya, in Ukraine, in Mali, in Central Africa, in Sudan, that's what Russians do and has been doing in Syria, in Afghanistan. Not only killing people, torturing people, murdering and looting. The very important thing they do, they spread the poisonous propaganda, telling that Russia is a peaceful country, telling that Putin is a brave soldier, which all lies. Don't trust lies. Try to think critically, try to analyze, because in Indonesian media, and please join and follow our accounts in Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, my personal account and the account of Embassy of Ukraine in Indonesia. You'll have a lot of information in Bahasa, in English, regarding the day-to-day news and situation in Ukraine. Think critically, love your country, support peace, democracy, and freedom. Merdeka!
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Basil, for your change and come to Tribun Timur, and also sharing a lot of story, and also talk a lot about what is the Ukraine are fighting for. And also thank you very much for all the Tribuners that already watched the special Ngobrol virtual today. And thank you so much. And I'm Anissa Husnuzan, sign out, and see you.
Sampai ketemu lagi ya.
Ya, terima kasih banyak Dr. Fazil.